It truly does take a village to win an NBA championship. We saw it with the 21-22 Warriors. And considering they went into the season with the strength of numbers mentality, we always knew that it was going to take a village, but they didn't have the right villagers. And why things have changed and why it feels like this team truly has it figured out heading into a really tough stretch. That's on today's Locked On Warriors.
Who cares now? Because I'm here. And I would like to think that I am wanted here.
Most importantly, he a dog.
You got 4 championships.
You are Locked On Warriors.
I know Jimmy drinks great wine.
Your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Speculation is just what it is, though.
Your team every day.
How's it going, everyone? Welcome into Locked On Warriors. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We are brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. My name's Charlie Walter, formerly at 95.7 The Game in the Bay Area. That's the flagship of the Golden State Warriors. Also covered the team and a championship run for CBS News Bay Area. We do have a newsletter. You can find it at lockedondaily.com. And why bury the lead? Ways you can find this show, YouTube, and wherever you get your audio podcast. On today's show, we're going to spend some time previewing a pretty brutal back-to-back at home for the Warriors. We're going to talk about the wild, wild West as a whole and why, Oklahoma City's the talk of town, but aside from the Thunder, it's like you're talking about a team that's in the play-in spot right now. And the Wolves is a squad that's picking up steam to potentially be a team that can compete in the West. The Mavericks, a preseason favorite. Meanwhile, they're completely done. It's been wild. You know, the Eastern Conference has been pretty stable. It's been the Cavs, the Celtics, the Knicks pretty much throughout the season. The surging Pistons, the storyline. Pacers got off to a bad start, as did the Bucks. They've figured it out. For the most part, it's been stable, right? Instability has been the name of the game when it comes into the Western Conference. We're going to discuss that coming up on today's Locked On Warriors. But first, let's start with it takes a village. I think to the show, what is it? The Bear, where I'm forgetting the actor's name, Jeremy something. He's in Shameless as well. He's Lip Gallagher. And in this show, he works at Mr. Beef, and he's a cook, basically, comes into the restaurant. They don't have the right personnel, or at least they don't think they have the right personnel. The restaurant's in shambles. The brothers selling drugs out of the back alleyway. They're going to birthday parties and spiking people's drinks. It's a bad overall scene early. And the main chef rallies the troops, gets everyone to know their roles, and next thing you know, they're cooking mean. And they're cooking, not really lean, but they were cooking. Let's put it that way. And that's what it feels like the Warriors are right now. Because it seems like when I watch the ESPN pundits and the analysts and they talk about why this team's good, it's always the cop-out answer of just Jimmy Butler comes in and the way that he plays, it fit exactly what the Warriors' missing pieces were, what their missing skill sets were, able to get to the line, knock down free throws, great IQ, great passer, incredible defender to once again turn this defense into one of the best defenses in the NBA. And sure, all that is very true. And the reason that all this has happened is because Jimmy Butler is here. But whether it's the Jimmy Butler effect or whether it just coincides with all the Warriors role players playing their best basketball at the same time cannot be overlooked. Whatever has gotten into Moses Moody, and before he was hurt, Brandon Bajemski. And since he's come back, Jonathan Kuminga, in my opinion, and Quentin Post. And Guy Santos has been playing awesome minutes. And Gary Payton has gotten back to playing 21-22, unsung hero. He can give you 15 minutes on a championship team type basketball. That has all come at once. Everyone is playing well. Now, throw in the Buddy Hield games where you get 1 of 7, and then the next one you may get 4 or 5. We've come to expect that with Buddy. He's, at the end of the day, what we thought he was going to be coming into the season. That is a microwave that you can now manage. He's a managed microwave. You put 30 seconds on the timer every single time, like when you pop in some pizza rolls, but 25 seconds in, sometime you got to beat the beep. I've been saying this for years. You got to beat the beep with the microwave. There are people sleeping. You got to beat the beep. AKA I'm lazy, and I can't wait the entire 30 seconds for the pizza rolls to cook. But that's what it feels like with Buddy, where you can hit the off button and you can try Pajimski, you can, throw Moody back in there. You have other players that you can put into that spot, and you now don't necessarily need Buddy as much. It's more of an added benefit, and you're going to win if he can get hot. That's what he does. But the role players, starting with Moses Moody, because the recency bias comes into play, and it's not just the recency bias of the game against the New York Knicks, where he had 18 points and one of the biggest baskets of the game with 2 minutes to go, and is showing incredible defense. Kind of looks like with his length out there, looks a little like a poor man's Wiggins defensively. But just in general, the technique is better defensively. He's staying in front of his man. His team defense has been better, and offensively, he's been not afraid to rip right to the bucket when he catches the ball, zero hesitation. And I think a lot of that is due to that Butler effect, where Jimmy comes in, all the expectation is thrown on his shoulders to kind of be the Messiah, to take the Warriors to the promised land. And because of that, these guys kind of have a back seat to just getting comfortable, to playing their games and figuring out their roles in real time. And we've seen it with Jonathan Kuminga. We'll get into that in just a minute, because Draymond Green on his podcast with Baron Davis had some good stuff that we're going to break down. But first of all, Moses Moody. The splits are truly insane. Just from watching every single game this year, I know they're insane. I'm looking them up real time, but I don't have to look them up to know that they have just astronomically grown in the last few months. I mean, in October, he's playing 18 minutes. November, he's playing 15 minutes per game. December, he's playing 15. He's averaging 6 points. He's averaging 8 points, whatever it may be. Since the calendar's flipped, and since he came back from that injury, he has been awesome. He's averaging like 23 minutes a game the past 3 months or so, more than that. I mean, he's up to 30 minutes per game in the 8 games in March, was up to 27 in February. So, and 21 in December. So the 15 and the 12-minute games that he was getting in the beginning of the season, that is no longer the case with Moody. And I mean, he's just been awesome. 12 points, 4 rebounds, couple of assists per game since he's been out there. He's shooting at 40% over the last 3 months, which before the season, I said, if Moses Moody is going to be a really good player in the NBA, it's going to start with the fact that he can knock down threes at a consistent clip. I said like 37. I'm like, if Moody can be a 37% guy and play good team defense and be an IQ player that doesn't turn it over multiple times per game, which he hasn't. I mean, he's played 230 minutes in the month of, or 244 minutes rather, in the month of March, and he's turned it over 5 times. 5 times in 244 minutes. Compare that to 14 assists. So he's a plus in all these little statistics that we don't necessarily look at while he's scoring the basketball, while he's shooting the basketball, 90% from the free throw line. He's been awesome. He's been awesome. Beginning of the year, I mean, shame on me. I said, I don't know how good Moses Moody is. I feel like he's got a pretty high floor, but a pretty low ceiling. And I don't know ceiling-wise if you ever look at Moody as an all-star type player, but you look at him as a rotation guy that can play for a long time. You have him on a team-friendly deal that allows you to build other players that, help Moses out, because you're not spending a ton of money on him. And he has just been exceptional for the Dubs. Kuminga's been awesome too. Let's get into Jonathan Kuminga, because Draymond Green had some good stuff about the way that he's playing and why the way that he's playing will allow the Warriors to experiment so much more when they actually start designing some sets for Kuminga. Because as of right now, according to Draymond, it is him playing out of the mud, making things happen out of the mud. What does that mean? The breakdown of all that was said on Draymond's show. Also, 3 games in 4 days. You check mark the New York Knicks, but you had the Denver Nuggets and the Milwaukee Bucks looming. We will get into that in the Wild Wild West tour. We talked about how the West was going to be wild this offseason. It's wild, but it's shaped out in a different way that we all thought, it would shape out. I mean, the Rockets back in that 2 spot, I thought they were in shambles. I thought they were going to come crashing down to 7 They're all the way back up in 2. They've won 6 straight. The story no one's talking about in the NBA. We got all things leading into the Denver Nuggets. It's a Monday night tip-off with the Golden State Warriors from Chase Center. We'll talk about that matchup and more coming up on Locked On Warriors.
Destroy Jimmy and Domino's. I know Jimmy drinks great wine.
Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track, and that is where Monarch Money comes in. It's your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is not just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center where you can track your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. You could just stop managing your money and you could start building wealth. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That is monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year. Today's episode is also brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. March Madness is here, and FanDuel is giving you a great way to stay in on the action. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets. All you have to do is win your first $5 bet. Pick an easy one. Pick an easy one. You get the buzzer beaters, you get the Cinderella stories, you get the big time upsets, and you can bet who's cutting down the nets. I like picking the favorites. If a 5 seed is better than a 12 seed, I'm going to take the money line at minus 175 all day. I stay in the action with live bets, and I get my money easily and fast. I don't wait around, and I get it on FanDuel.com. Get in on that college hoops action all tournament long. Let's get back to the show.
Who can stop Steph Curry?
Hopefully we'll never find out.
March Madness, best time of the year, leading into the final furlong, as they say in horse racing, is the stretch run is here, down to the final 15 games or so for the Golden State Warriors, and really their final few teams that they will see that are really good this season, being the Denver Nuggets. They have the Lakers coming up, and then obviously the Milwaukee Bucks on Tuesday, a difficult game also. March Madness, favorite Selection Sunday, just it hits a little bit different. Whether you're a fan of a team or whether you're a fan of hoops in general, or whether it's just the time of the year, there's something magical about March. Nothing better than Seth Davis popping up on the screen after every 12 and 13's announced. Oh, I like that 12. UC San Diego. Let me tell you what, the Tritons, they're going to the Sweet 16. They're going to knock off the 13 seed High Point. And it's like every single one. He goes out there and goes on a whim. And then every single ESPN personality / when Barack was in office, like it's just 1s and 2s. And it's they're not going to fire you if you pick something wrong. Like, we get it. Florida's good. Quit picking Florida. Houston wins the national championship. You heard it here first. All right. Jonathan Kuminga. Draymond Green and Baron Davis were on Draymond's podcast. It was released on Sunday, and they had a lot to say about Jonathan Kuminga, his return, and what he means for the Golden State Warriors and why it's such a massive addition. And I mean, the first thing that was brought up was Kuminga getting downhill, which he has done a ton of since he's been back. 3-pointers or something that he's been all right at. It's a part of the arsenal that he can utilize, but he shouldn't try to capitalize on it too much because it's 34% or whatever it may be for his career. And he's just so much better at taking the ball to the basket. The one thing that he needs to be is someone that can create, that can use coming off screens, getting the basketball, finding a matchup that he could take advantage of. And then if he doesn't have anything there, kicking it out. The double's going to come. If he's got a smaller defender, if he's got Deuce McBride switched onto him, even though Deuce is tough, anyone that's, let's say Brunson was playing for the Knicks and Brunson switches onto him. Like, if Kuminga can't take it on him, it's because someone probably slid over and you find the open man. And that's what the Warriors have been doing so well. They have just been playing team basketball. Again, it takes a village. It takes everyone knowing where they're supposed to be and playing how they were supposed to for it to click. And Kuminga, I don't know whether he's doing it on purpose or whether just the weight of the world has been completely lifted off his shoulders and he's just playing free. And this is what free looks like. But based off what Draymond said, they have not ran any sets for him. They're just like, he's getting downhill. He's playing well in transition, and he's finding the cuts when the cuts are there. And him playing this way changes this team because he's making things happen out of the mud. You can't game plan for this. And then when the Warriors want to integrate Kuminga fully, they could start running some sets for him, and it takes the team to a whole new level, he said. Is it crazy to say that the Warriors are a top 3 defense in the NBA since the emergence of Jimmy Butler? Now that you add in Kuminga, assuming that the defense he played against the Knicks is the defense you're going to see for the majority of the season. I mean, he looked good on some of those switches with Anobi on OG. His on-ball defense, it has consistently got better, and if the team defense is there fully, who's to say that this is not one of the best team defenses in the NBA? Maybe not the best individual defenders all around, but you have Draymond having a career year on the defensive side of the ball. He's been an absolute menace. Jimmy is Jimmy. He's awesome defensively. I think Moody's been good. Pods has been better than he's gotten credit for. Post can hold his own down low. You know what Looney's going to give you? Peyton is a sensational defender. All of a sudden, you look at this team, and it makes sense why they're winning as many games as they have. And that's 7 straight and 9-1 over their last 10. It's because the defensive tenacity has been picked up to the point where even when the Warriors shoot at 31% from 3, they are not only in games, but they're closing out games up by 6-7 points with trips to the free throw line to finish off the dreams of the opposition. That's just been the way it has been. And one of the things that's so incredible about the team defense is the defense in the interior, because we've known for a long time that the Warriors are not big, they're not tall, they're not they don't have centers for the most part, aside from Kevon Looney. They're undersized. However, their 45.6 points they've given up in the paint is second fewest in the NBA. It's like tied, second fewest. This is a smart, just good team defense that gets the job done around the rim, even though you don't necessarily look at the Warriors as having tons of rim protectors, right? But it's the way they're on a string. It's the way they're connected. It's the way they talk and communicate and are able to make up for others' mistakes. And there's not that many mistakes right now because their individual defense has been good. And that is where it starts with the Warriors, not getting beat off the dribble, staying in front of your man, and all of a sudden you get the defense that they put up against the New York Knicks, allowing 94 points against a team that can score it really well. Deflections and being the scrappy guy is something that I think they mentioned. I know they mentioned it in the podcast. Baron Davis basically saying like, hey, if this is who Jonathan Kuminga is, it's not necessarily how we viewed him coming into the season, what his role would be. We originally thought he was going to have to be that second scorer. And then Jimmy Butler comes in to provide you the second scoring. So far, he hasn't necessarily even been the second scorer, but everything else has been so good. The villagers have really stepped up their game to the point where the village is taken care of. We're not talking about second scorers anymore. It's just who played well, who fit their role for that game, and did a Gary Payton or Moses Moody pop for 18 in a given night, or Draymond Green lead the way in scoring like he did a few nights ago with 23, which was the first time since 2016 that he's led the team in scoring. So a lot has gone right in a ton of different ways. But if Kuminga can be that guy that cuts, that gets deflections, that's the scrappy guy, all of a sudden you become the unassuming guy. Or you don't become, I guess you leave that role once you start dominating that role. But as of right now, he's kind of the unassuming guy. Everyone's prepped for the big three: Draymond, Butler. They're prepped for Steph Curry. Kuminga is kind of that afterthought that's coming in off the bench. They're expecting him to do a ton with the ball in his hands offensively, and he's just doing it in different ways right now, starting with his defense. So Draymond said, I don't want Kuminga losing sight of him being a star in this league. Like that still is what the Warriors have in the cards for Kuminga. He's what? Barely old enough to drink a beer. I mean, he has a long way to go. It may just not be his turn yet, or it may be his turn, and we figure out is his turn through this sidekick role where he is the unassuming guy and he gives you defense, he gives you rebounding, and he does not make bad decisions, because that's something that's huge with Kuminga. If he can go in there and just play smart, high IQ basketball like he's been playing, then his talent's going to take care of the rest. I see him and Jimmy right now. I mean, you hear the mentorship. You hear that Jimmy is giving Kuminga some of his film to study. And the way that those two play, because Jimmy's kind of like the Thunder, Kuminga's the Lightning to me. And you could see the Thunder with Jimmy, right? He just somewhat methodical, not somewhat, very methodical, takes his time, surveys, navigates, use all the different antonyms you have for that. Synonyms, I should say. Antonyms being opposite. You learn something new every day. That's stuff you learned in second grade. But all the synonyms that there are for just being kind of a general, and it all comes together. Anyways, let's move on. 3 games in 4 days is what this stretch is. They've already gotten the first leg out of the way in the Knicks. Let's talk about Denver. Let's talk about the Bucks in the wild, wild West, the Western Conference as a whole, as we get to the final stretch of the season. This is Locked On Dubs.
Forget that. We champs. Why are you starting with that question? We got 4 championships.
All right. Something that I love with Dash Pass that all you folks need to get in on is when they swoosh, you save. What is that? Every time a player drops 50 or more points in a game, you score a huge deal the next day. It's simple. A player scores 50 or more during this 24-25 NBA regular season, and Dash Pass members will get 50% off an order. That's up to $10 off. It's the next day from noon to midnight. You can use it on a game day feast. You can, late night munchies, little late night cravings. You could do lunch on the go if you don't have time to cook, or if you're having friends over, fuel your watch party. It doesn't have to be sports. You could be watching The Bachelorette. Get some wings. Nothing goes with love like a little honey barbecue with blue cheese and ranch. Mix it up a little bit. Anyways, DoorDash, 50% off after a 50-point game. Get in on that action.
Destroy Jimmy and Domino's. I know Jimmy drinks great wine.
All right, let's start with the Denver Nuggets coming up. It's crazy that Joker is not getting as much MVP hype, and I get it. At a certain point, you win it so many times in a row, and the voters are probably looking for any excuse to give it to someone else. And when Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has the season that he's having, it makes sense. But Jokic's numbers, man. I mean, I got to put on the reading glasses to even believe this. 29 points, 12 rebounds, 10 assists. Dude's averaging a triple-double. And you're telling me that he's not going to be the unanimous MVP? It's hard to look at anyone in this league right now and say they're better than Nikola Jokic. It is very difficult. The team, however, they're beatable. They're good right now on the 3rd spot when it comes to the Western Conference playoff outlook. Right there with the Memphis Grizzlies. Tied right now, and tied with the Houston Rockets. In fact, it's a 3-way spot. So you could say they're 3rd, you could say they're 2nd, you could say they're 4th, whatever it may be. But they're in that 3 spot right now, and they're 5-5 over their last 10. So they're really the only team in the West, it feels like, along with the Lakers, that aren't winning basketball games, because the Wolves, the Clippers, the Thunder, the Rockets, we got a lot of hot teams in the West right now. And the Nuggets are that team that you could smell blood a little bit. They haven't been playing their best basketball, but individually, they do have some players that we've seen tear up this league for a long time. Jokic, we mentioned. Jamal Murray's been good. 21 points per game this season. Porter Jr. has been playing good basketball. He's kind of, I feel like, one of the Warriors killers. It seems like whenever Porter Jr. is playing the Warriors, he just crushes them. Maybe that's just me. I'd have to look up the overall splits. But Christian Brown, Aaron Gordon, we all know the San Jose native can ball. And don't sleep on Russell Westbrook. He's been shooting the basketball much better. The splits, I got to see it to believe it. Because when I go on a podcast and say Russell Westbrook's been shooting the ball well, I just have to confirm with my own eyes. But from everything I've seen as of late, he's been having a pretty good season shooting the ball. I want the monthly splits. That's the best way for me to really break it down how someone's been playing in terms of shooting it. Shooting at 42% from three. So he is 19 of 45 from three in the month of March. A player that people used to call Westbrook. They used to tease him, and he would get pissed off, rightfully so. They used to tease him for his shooting abilities, and he's now shooting 42% for this month. And on the season, after a pretty, cold pedestrian start, he's picked it up to the point where he's nearing 35%. And he's going to shoot it when he's open. So that is a wrinkle that the Nuggets now have when you see this team play, is that Westbrook is actually shooting the basketball very well. And he's kind of their Draymond Green in that sense, where you're going to see him with a lot of open opportunities. And it's no longer, oh my God, what's coming here? Just like Draymond, there's a decent chance that it goes down, and it can happen at a big point in the game. Coming off a 22 and 11 point performance against the Wizards is Westbrook. A loss to the Wizards in which Jordan Poole sunk the game-winning bucket. That stings. Wizards aren't good. So you're getting them at a vulnerable time where they clearly aren't playing their best basketball, 5-5 in the last 10, and coming off a loss to the Wiz. Then it's the Bucks. First time you'll see Giannis this season, and the last time you'll see Giannis this season, most likely, is he did not play in their first matchup. First matchup, I think it was Taurean Prince that went crazy against the Warriors, and he's had a nice little season thus far. Kuzma has added another wrinkle since he's joined the team in that trade for Chris Middleton. So you'll see Kuzma for the Bucks, and then it's Dame, and you know what the Bucks are. They're a team that is, in my opinion, always a threat. I saw them on kind of the same, before the season, the same level as like the Phoenix Suns, an uber talented team that has had their chances. Granted, the Bucks have won one, the Suns did not, but have had their chances, but may kind of be on their last leg. And it looked like that early when they were like, 1-9, 1-10 to start it. It wasn't good. But I think we've seen with them, winning a couple in a row and getting to the point this season where they're 38-28, having that run in the midseason tournament. Like, they are a very solid basketball team. And you get the fourth best team in the East and the third best team in the West back to back. And you just took care of the third best team in the East. So all the folks out there that are saying the Warriors haven't beat anyone, while true, although the Knicks twice is nothing to slouch at. Granted, one without Cat, the other without Brunson, and a Bucks win without Giannis earlier with Jimmy, but they've beaten who they can beat. They've passed every single eye test, and now this is that 2-game stretch, Denver and Milwaukee, where Draymond said it best, 2-1. 2-1 would be a great stretch for any team in the NBA going up against these three, but we're going to go 3-0. Championship teams go 3-0, and that is their plan. So that's kind of how we're looking. In terms of the West as a whole, it's Oklahoma City. They've clinched a playoff spot. They're going to clinch the division here soon, or the conference here soon. Divisions, I'm sure, already been clinched at this point. If not, it's going to be very close. But 12 and a half games up on the Houston Rockets and the Nuggets and the Grizzlies, then 13 and a half up on the LA Lakers, who are in 5. And then it's the Warriors. It's 16 games back. The Wolves won, so they're 16 games back as well. This is just crazy. It's insane to me that Golden State has won 7 straight games. They've been, I think 13-1 with Jimmy on the floor, 13-2 since the trade. I believe those are the numbers over 15 games. If not, it's just a game off. Doesn't make my point any less valid that this is insane. It's the wild, wild West in a different way than I thought it was going to be. Actually, the same exact way that I thought it was going to be, just different teams. Like, we knew before the season, there were 7 teams you could point to. And sure, I think everyone had Oklahoma City penciled in as that team before the season, with Minnesota and Dallas kind of being right up there, considering they were the kings of the castle last year that played in the Western Conference Finals. But it hasn't looked that way at all. I mean, the Mavericks down at 10, the Wolves at 7. The Rockets have been the upstart team that has risen all the way up to the near top of the conference. But there's a fight right now for just the ability to have some rest and not have your season rely on how your knees are feeling on a given Tuesday or whatever it may be in a play-in tournament. Wolves have won 8 straight. Clippers have won 3 straight. Warriors have won 7 straight. 0 separation after winning 7 straight is the epitome of brutality in terms of the schedule watching bunch out there. The schedule watching bunch cannot catch a single break. But the good news, and we've talked about this, get through this stretch unscathed. If the Warriors defeat the Nuggets and the Bucks, at this point, sure, you're going to get scrappy versions of the lottery-bound teams because there truly is no tank, right? I mean, there's a tank in the sense of the personnel decisions and the trades that are made midway through the season, whatever. But there's no tank in terms of fighting. Like, every NBA player that's out there knows that a lot of money, I mean, millions of dollars are on the line if you just have a 1 week, 2 week stretch. I mean, we saw Kevin Knox on the Warriors have a few chances. I don't know if that's going anywhere now that the 10 days are over. Although last I checked, I did see him on the bench. But you just think of an opportunity that you have in 15 minutes. If you light it up, you may get 20 the next game. You can earn yourself some serious money. So teams like the Raptors that you have coming up right after this stretch, and then the Hawks, and then the Miami Heat, the first time you'll see Butler's old team, the first time you'll see your old teammate Wiggins, and the Pelicans and the Spurs, and like easy games, easy 5-game stretch coming up on paper that you don't think the Warriors are going to lose, but you're going to get fight from everyone. However, I think if you handle this stretch of Knicks, Nuggets, Bucks, you as a Warriors fan have to be extremely optimistic that they're not going to lay multiple duds. I mean, maybe you come out against the Hawks a little bit flat on the road, you lose. It is a 5-game, 6-game, 7-game road trip for the Warriors coming up. Yikes. It's a lot of road games. With that being said, Warriors just dominated on the road. They've been dominating anywhere since this Jimmy Butler trade. So that doesn't necessarily concern you. And you feel really good about that schedule. And you may have some separation entering a later stretch where you have the Grizzlies, the Lakers, the Nuggets, and the Rockets, and the Suns. 5 straight games back-to-back before you finish with the Spurs, the Blazers, and the Clippers. So that's how it's segmented. It's segmented with 2 more difficult games back-to-back. It's 5 easy ones. It's 4 games against playoff teams, not play-in, but playoff teams. And then it's 1 against the Suns, who they've shown the capability of kicking your ass. That was pre-Butler. And then you finish Spurs, Blazers, and you hope that Clippers game means nothing. But the schedule's right there. Unfortunately, you just have to keep winning because the Warriors cannot control what the Wolves do behind them. And unless the Lakers fall out of this thing 2.5 games above the Warriors right now, you can't do anything about it. I mean, you lose a game, the Wolves win another game, you're no longer in the catbird seat. You have to hope that they lose some games. So every game just so pertinent at this point, regardless of who's on the schedule. And eye test, so big too. Confidence meter, so big. Because right now, this team, they believe, they're smiling, they're playing well, they're playing free, they're happy, everyone's buying into their roles. Things can change quickly in the NBA. And timing is everything. In really any sport, a lot of times the hottest team entering the playoffs, the healthiest team entering the playoffs, they can win it all regardless of the seeding. Now, in most sports, specifically football, the hottest team is usually the hottest team throughout most of the season, or they're up there because it's a shorter season, right? But in basketball, especially after a blockbuster trade like Butler and in a season where you have a bunch of 21-year-olds essentially that are now kind of hitting nowhere near a peak, but hitting kind of a point where they can start taking their games upward and playing freely and knowing that they are dudes and that they have roles. And if they make a mistake, they're not going to be summoned to the bench for 25 minutes. And having the veterans believe in them, because we know what happened the last few years where it was just like Curry and Draymond. We don't have it. We don't have it. Right now, it feels like they truly have it to take them far. The question is how far, and can they get into that 6th spot? So that's a show. Warriors and the Denver Nuggets will tip it off on Monday. Have a great start to your week, and I will talk to you with either Kylan or Kolsky. We'll see who shows up after that Nuggets game. Peace, everyone.